Thanks for staying with us, everyone. First up, the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama has issued a warning that the ongoing global tariff war, if not effectively managed, could severely impact Ghana's economy, exacerbating pressure on the local currency and driving inflation higher.
Environment, colleagues, is another area which, though currently supportive, is becoming increasingly volatile. We've seen a strong trade surplus, and we've seen some solid reserve buildup, as the data in the Blue Book will show, and these on the back of gold exports and remittance flows. But colleagues, we also see a possible escalation in global tariff wars. We also see rising geopolitical tensions, and we see a weakening in Chinese demand, which could shift the dynamics. These global factors could also have spillover effects on inflation going forward, capital flows, and could also affect exchange rate stability going forward.
All right, that warning coming as the MPC meeting enters its second day. Today, I'm joined on Zoom by Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University, Professor Williams Pipar. Good afternoon to you from here. What are the long-term economic implications of the ongoing global tariff war for developing countries like Ghana?
Good afternoon to you, Daryl, and good afternoon to your viewers. This issue of tariff war is very, very important for us to discuss, especially if you look at Ghana, where we are. Generally, once we see this tariff war, we may see that global trade may reduce, and in our perspective, straight away it may have an impact on our trade account. As the governor mentioned, our trade account balance has been in surplus. If it's not managed well, we may not see that surplus that we have been experiencing. It may also lead to lower demand for Ghanaian products and also affecting our exports. And when our exports is affected, it may lead to affecting our growth projections and also increasing unemployment rates. He already mentioned that we are seeing that it will have an impact on inflation. Another important element with this tariff is that it is going to disrupt the supply chain process in the world. And when supply chains are affected, production may slow down in various countries, and this will lead to the whole economy moving back into a little bit of recession. And that is what we are trying to. Ghana must find a way to manage itself, knowing where to position itself. And also, the economic management team should have a look at it and be able to address it.
Yeah, I mean,
inflation is something that needs to be looked at. So all these are some of the long-term effects that these tariffs are going to bring onto us.
I mean, talk about managing the situation. We heard the governor there issue a warning about its impact on inflation and the currency. What can Ghana do to manage these external factors?
So, the more time you see tariff war happening, what it means is that countries, especially like Ghana, we must have to strengthen our local production, because your local production is what is going to sustain your growth. And then we may also have to find a way to reduce our reliance on importation, because the items that we are going to import into a country will come at a higher cost, which becomes that we are transferring another country's inflationary pressures into our country, and that is something that needs to be addressed. On the fiscal side, government in Ghana, government is the highest expenditure entity, so the government must use its fiscal policies very, very well, especially if they are going to buy. They should focus on buying from locals within the country to boost the production. And then in terms of expenditure, they should spend wisely, prudent fiscal measures. Another important element is the monetary policy rates. Two main things of central bank: stabilization of the currency by making sure that they manage inflationary very well, and that's why they are discussing it. So inflationary pressures needs to be managed with the monetary policy tool, and they must have to set a target or a rate that is really focused on addressing these challenges. They have so many models, and as they look at the models, they should be able to come out with a figure that will really support the economy and the currency as well.
What do you foresee the committee decide on the policy rate? I mean, there are experts who have said that the rate should come down. Do you agree with that?
If you ask me, we are in the correction period of the process. So you've seen that the yield curve on the treasury bill rate has gone to inverse now.
That's true.
So we are in the correctional period. In the correctional period, normally you will see that the monetary policy rate will have to start at maybe a stable, unchangeable rate, because inflation rate is not dropping as the way the yield curve have dropped. And it will take about maybe another quarter for us to be able to see inflation dropping to a level that will propel the monetary policy rate to come down. So that is what we are seeing. If you've seen, there's a marginal reduction in inflation. And one of the major issues that we really need to address is the food inflationary indices. It is still high. So once the food indices indicators are still high in the country, it becomes very difficult to reduce the monetary policy rate as we expected. So maybe when the rain starts, and somewhere in June, that is where I believe that we may have a major reduction of about 200 to 300 basis points. For this meeting, I'm expecting them to either give about a 50 basis point or maintain the current rate as it is.
Yeah, let's talk about what the government can do as well in light of the global trade war. What can it do to offset the tensions as a result of these disruptions caused by the Trump administration in terms of policy?
So we must focus on our comparative advantage as a country, what we can do best and at the lowest cost. Value creation for our production should be our agenda, especially with our exports. I know the current government is talking about making sure that we add value before we export. So during a time of tariff war, you create value by increasing your production, and in that case, people will need your production, which is in line with the industrialization agenda. If the government really wants Ghana to survive during this period, we must strengthen or promote the industrialization agenda, and by adding value. Another important feature is this is the time for us to build reserves. So with the gold, all those discussions ongoing, if you're able to build enough reserves, it's going to make sure that the economy grows the growth becomes sustainable when we have good reserves, because then our currency is seen as some backing from the reserves. Lastly, this is the time also to ensure that our small and medium enterprises become more productive. So with the government 24-hour economy, we want to see whatever policy that they are thinking about to focus on the small, medium enterprises. Ghana, that is the major entities that control the economy. And then I think I will say this, reduce dependence on foreign trade. So the government must also find ways to control some imported items that are not too much necessary. And there are a lot of items that they already know that we need to address, like the rice importation, some of the meat we import in the country. If we can produce them locally, it's going to help us to grow the economy. And so these are some of the items. I'm sure they already have those items from the agricultural sector.
Yeah.
That we need to look out for.
Well, on that last point, my final question, would it help to diversify our trade partners, for instance, maybe look more within the continent?
I mean, that should be the best for every country. When you diversify, you spread your risks. you open up for new opportunities in terms of exports. Already we know agua. We have been talking about it, but our role as Ghana, we have not become a dominant exporter with this. Though we have the headquarters in Ghana, we should be able to encourage that. Let's do business within Africa among ourselves, because the need and it's with us. We have the population, we have the numbers. So if we're able to diversify it, focusing within only Africa, it is going to boost some of the trade that we already have before we think of overseas, because the overseas, though it brings in the foreign currency, however, knowing these challenges and the tariffs, they may decide to put some tariffs on some of the items which may affect our products. Right. So, but we know within agua, there is no tariff free, so it becomes very easy to move the goods around within Africa.
Thank you so much. Great to speak with you. That was Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University, Professor Williams Pepra. Appreciate your time on the marketplace. Now, in a bid to stabilize the Ghana cedi, the Bank of Ghana has raised its dollar support for the foreign exchange market amid growing pressures. Here's more in this report.
Recent developments on the treasury bills market has seen the Ghana cedi come under some pressure on the forex market. This resulted in the local currencies losses being sustained for almost a week. But it now appears the cedi is now responding to this market intervention by the central bank. From last week on the forex market, the cedi has moved from the 16 Ghana cedis 20 pesos range to about 16 Ghana cedis to $1. This, the commercial banks link it to improve liquidity on the market. There are strong projections that with government's commitment to contain spending in the coming months and projections that the monetary policy rate could be hiked marginally to deal with the recent development on the treasury bills market, then we could be assured that at least the cedi's marginal stability against the dollar could be sustained in the coming weeks.
Also in the news this afternoon, the Ghana Revenue Authority is currently conducting an income tax assessment on businessman and chairman of the microcredit firm Bills, Richard Amakwe. The audit aims to evaluate the level of tax compliance by the entrepreneur. However, the GRA has denied claims of freezing his account. Here's more.
GRA has commenced discussion for payment arrangements on all tax obligations by the businessman Richard Amakwe. This is contrary to some reports that the authority had earlier frozen the account of the entrepreneur, a situation denied by sources at the GRA. The GRA is a collaborative tax administrator, especially to clients who have good records of tax payment. However, asset freeze is one of the rare enforcement tools available to GRA and only triggered when all cordial means have been exhausted. According to Joy Business sources, the entrepreneur has made previous payment on some items bought and imported into the country after an assessment. The development is positive for the relationship for both parties, as the country is hopeful of increasing tax revenue this year.
And you're watching The Marketplace. We're taking a short break. There's plenty more coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to The Marketplace. My name is Darryl Kwao. Time for the exchange, and we are talking venture capital finance. And today, the Ghana Venture Capital and Private Equity Association has published a 2024 report on the state of the industry in Ghana. Let's explore some of the findings for the industry research. Joining me in studio is Ama Jampo. She's Chief Executive of the Ghana Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. Here for the exchange. Happy to have you in studio. Hope you're having a good day.
Yep, great, thank you. All
right, so let's dig into it. Let's talk about the association and what role the industry body plays when it comes to SME growth support.
Thanks, Darryl. So Ghana Venture Capital Association was set up a few years ago, going into our fourth year. And the idea was to support the Venture Capital Trust Fund, which is a government-backed fund, to build the ecosystem around SME financing, early-stage financing. We have a lot of DFI, development finance institutions in the space, but how do we also mobilize our local institutional investment opportunities? So the pension funds, the trustees, the insurance companies, some of the banking sector arms in terms of investment, how do we unlock their activities in local currency for local companies to also grow? So that is fundamentally what we've been set up to do. And our members are basically all of these individual stakeholders.
Right. So the Venture Capital Association has been focused on investment diversification and increasing institutional investors' participation in venture capital and private equity. Why does that matter?
I think we've been we've seen the debt restructuring issues, and some of the pension funds lost a lot of money, significant amounts of money from just the reliance on debt. And I think as a country, we've been very reliant on debt and high expensive interest rates. SMEs have to borrow very high interest rates, 25, 30% is the norm in Ghana, right? So I think for us, it's a diversification play. How do we provide long-term support, long-term financing for SMEs that are at the growth stage to access that kind of capital and hands-on support? Because when we invest as venture capitalists, we're involved in the business, right? We take you through a lot of the difficult situations required to overcome and thrive and cross markets and expand.
Right. Funding is very difficult for SMEs.
Yes.
It's like a major challenge for them. So how does the venture capital solve this challenge?
We provide an alternative to the banks, right? I think if you're paying your loans and your banking credit's good and you're managing as an SME to turn over a profit, you're probably a really good candidate for venture capital and private equity, right? It's a really good indicator. So for us, it's really building the relationship with the banks to say, look, we offer an alternative to the loans that people are very used to, but we are more long-term patient capital, and we give you the support you need to grow your business if you're that way inclined to expand.
Let's talk about the regulatory environment. What targeted policies and incentives needed to support the growth of venture capital and private equity?
Well, we're very much calling for Limited Partnerships Act, which is basically the global standard for having any venture capital fund established, licensed, and thriving in any marketplace. Ghana currently does not have that structure. So if you go to the Registrar General's department, you have to set up as a limited company before you then go through the Security and Exchange Commission licensing process, which can take 2-3 years.
Right.
So we're just calling for the limited partnerships framework to be established in Ghana so we can be more competitive as a destination for funds to be set up, licensed, and run in Ghana.
All right, let's talk about the economic impact or the economic potential of venture capital investments here in Ghana. Tell us about it.
Well, it's huge. I mean, we've been going for 20 years as a venture capital industry. We set up with the Venture Capital Trust Fund Act in 2004, I believe. So 20 years of venture capital in Ghana is no small feat. I think it's something we are trying to celebrate, and to celebrate the stories of the ventures that have been backed by venture capital, the ZPays, the Hubtels, the Njaro Investments, the Oasis Capitals. We have many, many stories of successful fund managers who have navigated over 20 years in Ghana's industry. We have $7 billion under assets right now.
Wow.
In Ghana, right? We are allowed to, pension funds, for example, are allowed to invest up to 25% of their assets under management in alternative assets, including venture capital and private equity. But our job is to really bridge that gap. How do we get more institutional investors aware of the asset class and to grow that asset base so that we can support more SMEs to contribute to the real economy, and also delivering value back to the pensioners themselves, right, who are also struggling with the basic access to services, affordable housing. These are all initiatives and innovations and businesses that could be serving the end user of the pension funds themselves.
Yeah, I just saw a 2024 report. I mean, what are the highlights of the report that you published? Yeah,
I think it just shows the journey of venture capital in Ghana over 2 decades. It also shows that the regulations have changed a lot to improve the environment. Ghana is about probably 7th in the continent of Africa in terms of the attractiveness of our market to venture capital. But we have a long way to go in terms of reviewing some of the regulations and policy frameworks. And that's what we're very much focused on doing, to enable us to lower the barriers and to enable the asset class to grow in Ghana and to increase
what are some of the barriers, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, again, just setting up a fund in Ghana is not the ideal structure. So we need a framework like the Limited Partnerships Framework, which is more of a global standard for venture capital funds to operate and license and grow. So we need to get up to par with what's happening in the rest of the world in markets like even Mauritius, South Africa, Nigeria. We need to get up to par with what's been happening in those markets.
How about, awareness amongst the SMEs as well? I find that not so many of them understand how you operate as venture capitalists.
That's true. I think everyone's very used to taking the bank loan and just paying your debts, and repaying your debts is basically what people are used to in Ghana. But I think it's our job to also increase awareness. And so
how do you hope to do that?
This platform, through these kinds of platforms, and really educating people on the opportunity. The option of venture capital is really for those who are mid-sized, high growth, they're earning revenue, they're ready for growth, they want to expand to maybe other markets, and they need the hand-holding, the support to enable them to do that. They're the ones that private equity and venture capital are most poised to support.
All right, let's look forward. Let's look into the future. How do you expect that the industry navigates these challenges? I mean, what are you looking to do in the coming years here in Ghana? Yeah,
we're looking to advocate for policy change and regulatory change to be more aligned with our competitors in other markets. We want Ghana to be a more attractive destination for funds to set up in Ghana and expand the economy through the real economy, investments in the real economy. And, we have our convenings and trainings that are targeted at our institutional investors. So we do a lot of training and support capacity building of fund managers, of pension fund managers, trustees, to just, educate them as to what the opportunity is and to show them the case studies of our successful funds in Ghana so far.
Yeah, and in terms of regulatory changes, are you already engaging? Are you making progress in that regard?
Yeah, progress is being made. We talk every day to our big brother at Venture Capital Trust Fund, who are leading from the government side. So we work very much in partnership to have various conversations with our regulators.
Right. We have less than a minute. So there are SMEs watching. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you have some advice or tip for them as far as venture capital financing is concerned. What would you tell them?
I would say that if you are inclined to grow and create jobs at scale and to expand across markets and you want to learn how to do business in a way that can create jobs and drive the economy, then venture capital is an alternative option for you in terms of financing the growth of your business. So I would say, do the right things, try and, keep your systems and bookkeeping and the basics in place, and then you become more of an attractive proposition for potential investors.
Bookkeeping, very important tip. Thank you so much. I'm Jampo, Chief Executive, Ghana Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. Happy you came.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have you some time. That's the marketplace, everybody. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjohnonline.com/business. We will be back same time tomorrow. Don't go anywhere.